Welcome to Your In Depth, where we walk through and break down our favorite fictional universes. As usual, I am one of your hosts, Jacob, and I have with me, well, your other host, Evan.
Hello.
There you are. Wow, much milder intro than what we are now going to have as a blooper.
Well,
Speaking of bloopers, just want to throw that out there real quick, that if you ever wonder, if you've been following this for a little bit and you ever wonder, is there anything they take out of the episodes? Yes, there is, and most of it's Evan, and maybe some not great jokes by me.
Hold on a second. It's
Shut
not
up.
mostly Evan.
Shut up. Shut up. It
There's
is.
plenty that comes from you too.
Debatable. But anyway, every 1,000 downloads that we get on our podcast, we will release a blooper reel. We are approaching number 5 currently, but if you want to help with that, share it around. I don't know. Open up several Chrome tabs. I don't know if that's how it works. But anyway.
And if anybody we know is listening, primarily my relatives, I'm sorry.
My God. I think they would have disowned you.
I still wonder if they're going to.
Anyway, to get into what we're talking about, you probably would have been able to tell by the title of the episode, but we're going to do Rings of Power, and it'll be Season 1, Episode 5. It is called Partings. So, as per recently usual, we are going to run through a summary of what happened in the episode. Well, hey, to further prove my point, there was another blooper because we're dumb. But anyway, we are going to
2 or 3 minutes of just blooper material right there.
Yeah, it was. But anyway, we have a summary of the content covered. We'll have a small little ad break, and then we'll get into notes that we took and things that we wanted to bring up while we watched it.
Yeah.
And that'll be our episode. So, buckle up and I don't know what.
I will say as well, in case anybody's wondering, the whole ad thing that gets played in each episode, Jacob makes those himself, and he doesn't share those with me beforehand. So, when you guys are first hearing it, my reaction to any of those ads is a pure, raw, first time I heard it reaction to the different ads that show up.
I don't know what you're talking about. I get paid for these.
Where's my money at?
Oh, I said I.
Oh, this is some bolonky if I've ever seen it.
No, Evan did say that correctly. I usually make a fake ad because I think it's fun and I don't care. And I just think it's fun.
I would say
show
a solid 3/4 of the time it's a jab at me in some way.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
One of them was a sea shanty calling him a predator.
Yep. For anybody listening to our Rings of Power coverage, was it Rings of Power or was it Return of the King?
No, it was Rings of Power because it was Numenor. I think it was episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so in this episode, it's called Partings, and what I'll do is I'll summarize the story based on each group, just instead of, following the episode format of bouncing back and forth. So in this episode, we actually have the Harfoots and the Stranger. Last episode, we didn't. But this one is, while journeying across the wilderness, Nori, Brandyfoot, and Poppy Proudfellow, my God, my mic arm is creaky. Anyway, are attacked by a pack of wolves, and the Stranger uses his mysterious magic to drive the wolves away, but injures his arm in the process. Attempting to heal himself with more magic, he unintentionally frightens Nori when his power grows unstable and nearly harms her. Really almost freezes her. Because he was he's got this ice kind of thing, and it's freezing the water in a stump or something. And then she touches it and she starts to freeze. So, meanwhile, 3 mysterious women, the Dweller, the Ascetic, and the Nomad, discover the crater where the Stranger originally fell from the sky, setting them on his trail. Then we have the Southlands, and this is Bronwyn, Arondir, and the villagers. They're camped out at that one post, if you remember. Arondir was just set free of the orc camp to deliver a surrender or die message. At Ostereth's tower, Bronwyn prepares the prepares the remaining Southlanders for an imminent orc attack. Waldreg, however, insists that surrendering to the orcs is wiser and persuades half the villagers to join him. Upon meeting Adar, Waldreg realizes that Adar is not Sauron, but still pledges his loyalty and is ordered to kill the young man, Rowan, to prove it. Meanwhile, Theo shows Arondir the broken sword hilt he's been hiding, and Arondir recognizes that it is a key meant to enslave the Southlands. And so it does have a dark purpose. Evan, you had mentioned last time that it is not a weapon, it's a power, and this kind of plays into that. It's actually a key. What it does yet, I don't recall. We haven't learned yet. So, over to Numenor. Galadriel, Halbrand, and the expedition. In Numenor, Elendil refuses Isildur's request to join the upcoming expedition to Middle-earth. Galadriel urges Queen Regent Muriel to send aid and declares that Halbrand will accompany them to reclaim his throne in the Southlands. Halbrand, bitter about being used, initially refuses. Meanwhile, Chancellor Pharazon's son, Kemen, tries to convince his father to cancel the mission, but Pharazon sees opportunity in making the Southlands a tributary state. King Tar Palantir warns Muriel not to go, fearing doom. That king was the elderly one that is her dad, if you don't remember that. Later, Kemen attempts to sabotage the expedition's ships, but discovers Isildur stowing away. Isildur stops him, saving both Kemen and the several ships from destruction. When questioned, Isildur lies to protect Kemen and is ultimately granted a place on the expedition as a stable hand. Galadriel later reconciles with Halbrand, who finally agrees to join her, and the fleet sets sail for Middle-earth. Finally, we have Eregion and Khazad-dûm. Eregion. That was it. I remember that being a weird pronunciation. Anyway, High King Gil-galad reveals to Elrond his knowledge of mithril, a powerful ore said to contain the light of the Silmaril, which could preserve the fading light of the elves. Elrond, bound by loyalty to Prince Durin IV, refuses to reveal that the dwarves have discovered it. Gil-galad accuses him of betraying his people. Troubled, Elrond confides in Durin IV, who agrees to help the elves. The two travel back to Khazad-dûm to convince King Durin III to share the mithril. So that's our summary. Really quick, we have an ad. As Evan mentioned, this is the first time he's hearing it. And then we'll get on with our episode. This episode of You're in Depth is brought to you by the Stranger's Ice Sculptures. If you're in need of some cool decorations, be sure to grab yourself a sculpture. These things look incredibly real. It's almost as if they're just frozen in time. And if you don't believe me, hear it from the stranger himself.
I'm Perrin.
What? Hey, don't touch me, man. Whoa, what on earth is going... What are you doing? No! Well, anyway.
Well, I don't know what happened to our buddy there that went to get that ad from the stranger, but I hope he's all right.
Hope so, too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool guy.
as some would say, yes, he is a pretty cool guy.
All right. That one was pretty fun. That's the one I recorded in my car on my lunch. Anyway, so that's where we're at with the summary and what all is going on. So now we can get into the notes that we took.
Indeed. And did you have a particular group that you wanted to start with?
Honestly, I didn't organize them. It looks like I have the Harfoots, Numenor, Durin, And then Southlands. Actually, it's pretty much grouped like that.
Okay.
And I didn't organize them, so we can just start with the Harfoots, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah, so they as they're migrating, they comment how the trees are never bare, as they are this time. In years past, they never are that bare, and they kind of wonder if it's because of the stranger. I didn't really have. I feel like I had a thought about that, but I don't recall what it was.
Mm.
So that was kind of an interesting comment, to where it's like things are kind of a changing, sort of feeling.
Well, and when I was going through, kind of taking my notes on the episode, that was something that I had jotted down as well. And at least for the one Harfoot that like makes those comments about it being related to the stranger, it was like it was. She was like fully on board with the like, he is the reason we're having these problems. Like, this is his fault.
She was one of the ones that's kind of on the anti-stranger train.
It does make me wonder how the different Harfoots view the stranger at this point. Because you have those like Nori and Poppy who are like, you know, he's helping them out and they're helping him out and they like him. And then you have like this woman who is kind of clearly anti-stranger and wants him gone.
Right.
And I do kind of wonder, like, how many of the Harfoots are kind of just in the middle between those two extremes.
Yeah, it's kind of like how quite a bit of people are pretty openly accepting of other cultures, and Evan here hates French people.
Listen, I said it last episode. If they knew how to fight better, it would be a different story. Okay? I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
My point on, I guess my first point with the Harfoots would just be involving the stranger again, just how he's learning to communicate, with the Harfoots. He's like learning the basics of, like basic grammar and stuff, and like him and Nori are able to have some conversation, and she's teaching him. And it's like at a pretty quick pace as well. Because it's like all the way up until this point, we've only maybe heard like 1 or 2 word answers from him in a language that we can understand, aka English.
Right.
But he has talked, but he just in a completely different language. So like just his ability to pick up the local dialect is pretty quick.
Yeah.
Which I mean, for those that have seen all of Rings of Power and know who he is, makes sense with his background. So
yeah. So I wrote the stranger power smashes the wolves away. Should have just I'm an idiot. He should have just used his thumb, then he wouldn't have hurt his wrist.
Okay, Mr. Skyrim over here.
Yeah, I know. Stupid. Schroeder.
Another big one that I pointed out, and this is something I only realized this last time watching the episode from taking these notes, is at one point we see the Harfoots moving through like a swamp area on their journey, on their travels through the different locations that they go to. And if I'm not mistaken, because it shows a map of where they're at as they're traveling too, kind of transitions from map to them traveling to map to them traveling. But if I'm not mistaken, that swampland or those marshes are the marshes and the swamplands from the Two Towers movie.
Never forget.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
For the viewers as well, for like where they find the Frodo and Sam and Gollum are going through, and they see like the dead faces in the water, the men and elves and whatnot, and Frodo takes the plunge. Like if I'm not mistaken, that's where they are at. For just a brief moment in the episode, really, but I thought it was really interesting to see that location show up
another
again.
instance of it.
Yeah, well, and because it's interesting too, because at this point in the timeline where the show takes place, the battle that left those bodies there hasn't happened yet. So it's just another swampland or another marshland. There's no massive army battle casualties, spirits haunting the place thing going on there at this point. So I just thought that was something that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That I never picked up on before. So with that too, they're not very far away from the Southlands.
Yeah, and I didn't. That was all that I had regarding the Harfoots, other than the stranger and the weirdness with the ice.
Okay, I'll just do a quick scan then. Just another point I guess I put down was the stranger continues to look to the stars, trying to find that arrangement that we've seen before.
Yeah.
But I think that's about all I had for the Harfoots was those couple, 2 or 3 points. A lot of the Harfoot stuff right now is just kind of travel.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot going on there.
Which actually kind of reminds me of part of the contract that one of our ads had sent us was actually to be repeated a couple of times. And so, sorry, ad break number 2.
This episode is also brought to you by the Harfoot Happy Hikers. This is a guided hiking group that travels all around Middle-earth, and they are seeking new members. You do need to bring a partner, though, because as they constantly chant, nobody walks alone. No one. Also, stay on path or you'll be left behind. Nobody goes up here. Anyway, check them out.
Yeah, anyway, you may have heard that one before, but, hey, multiple ad slots, more money that I don't share with Evan. Keep on going, buddy.
If anybody's wondering, I'm recording out of a cardboard box right now because of this.
He's got it nicely decorated, though. There's some Legos. Anyway,
man, Jacob, listen, okay,
moving
I
on.
gotta come clean about something. This is just a fake background on camera.
Have you ever seen that one? That's funny. Have you ever seen the clip where it's just like, what's in the fridge? Have you seen that?
I don't. That doesn't sound
There's
familiar.
there's this one, and it's just this dude, and I can't think of his name, but he's like streaming and stuff, and he's got like a background, and he's got a refrigerator and everything, and it's just like it's in his house, and he's like talking, and his chat is just spamming like what's in the fridge? Show us the fridge. And he's like, you want to know the truth? And he goes and he turns it, and it's a cardboard like thing, and it looked perfect, and he's just like, it's not real. And I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up and send it to you because it's pretty funny. But anyway, moving on to Numenor.
Real quick, actually, this is just something I kind of thought of with the Harfoots.
Yeah, if you got something else, go for it.
Just the stranger using his magic with the Harfoots. It's interesting to me on how the magic manifests itself when he uses it. Like in this instance, he like slams his arm on the ground and like a shock wave goes out. Or
hey, do you think that if a do you think that this is how I'm still on the Skyrim thing? Do you think that if the Dragonborn was deaf, this is how he would use the shouts, because he'd have to use like sign language? So would it come from his hand or her hand, for that matter?
Well, I don't. That wouldn't be deaf. That'd be mute. Because if you're deaf, you can still like talk. You still have a voice.
Okay,
but if you're
you
a mute,
are correct there. However,
if the Dragonborn were a mute, I could see the shouts coming from his hands.
So that's
or
more
her hands,
practical.
Whatever. Yeah.
However, you raise another question. Do you think that if the Dragonborn was deaf, they were like, Fus Roda, and he'd just be like, nah, nah.
I think that depends on his teacher. If they can somehow Because there are deaf people out there who, when they talk, it's not just like that kind of muffled.
That is true. That is,
right.
yeah.
There are some deaf people out there who, when they talk, it does come across as just like a normal voice without any sort of like speech impediment. So I guess it really comes down to the teachers that teach the Dragonborn how to speak. But if they're not very good, for sure, that's how it's coming out. 100%.
Awesome. That'd be a funny mod.
I feel like the best mod would be like he goes to do Vostra and just like hand movements, and then a bunch of people go flying.
That'd be good.
I think that'd be a pretty good one too.
So,
but no, the stranger's magic and just how it's manifested in like what he's doing, whether it's the slamming his arm on the ground and creating the shockwave, or like sticking his hand in the water and muttering something to create ice. But then you go to wizards like Saruman and like Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, where it's all like channeled through their staff. It just like intrigues me with how unrefined and how kind of like wild the stranger's magic is. Because he doesn't have any sort of like real focus to channel it through, to control it properly.
Yeah.
And because it just makes me think of something like Dungeons and Dragons. When you're playing like a magic character, you have to have some sort of like arcane focus or magic focus to like cast your spells, and things like that. Otherwise, you have to have like weird materials and stuff like that to like cast the spells. And so it's just like seeing the stranger cast these spells or use this magic in just such an unrefined and unchanneled ways. I think it's a cool way of showing not only the power of magic on screen, but the destructive nature of it without the proper training or the proper guidance as well. Because it's like when you said with the recap with like the stranger healing his arm in the water, and he starts to freeze Nori's hand because like he's into the spell, he's working on the spell, on the magic, and he just doesn't see her there, so she kind of catches like the backlash of the magic.
Yeah, it's kind of like when it's kind of like in Skyrim. when you're hiking up a mountain and you go to use the unrelenting force shout or whatever it was called, and you're aiming at like an animal and your companion gets in the way, and then they go yeeting off the mountain as well. You know, it's collateral.
Other than that, though, just kind of looking through my notes, not really anything big other than those couple things for the Harfoots. Like I said earlier, it's just, for the most part, a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I will say, though, those wolves that they called wolves didn't look like wolves.
No, I think we talked about that in an earlier episode where it was just kind of like, kind of wondered if they were like more so wargs, but then you were like, well, it's probably an earlier ancestor of a wolf. And it's like, oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is a fantasy world, so it's like their version of a wolf could just very well be different than our version of a wolf in reality, you know? So, but yeah, they're like wolves, and then those things show up, and it's like, that don't look like no wolf.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had for the Harfoots.
Yeah. Well, anyway, on to Numenor. The first thing I wrote was not as interesting, but the next one I really thought kind of was more interesting. But this one, Halbrand continues to confuse me. If we set him aside from what we know, if we're all caught up, just about his story, in that it makes me have more questions. But at this very point, what we know, it's like Galadriel continues to like point out oddities in his story, where it's just like she points out his swordsmanship, and it's like, it doesn't quite line up with what you said you were. That's weird.
Have you watched all the way through season 2 of Rings of Power?
Not season 2. No, I've seen season 1 and then episode 1 of season 2.
Okay.
And then I just decided to hold off until we cover it.
When you look at Numenor and you look at the lore of the world and all that, because we know that Numenor falls. Like that's well-established lore that happens. And truthfully, I don't know if they're going to show that fall in Rings of Power or not. I imagine they have to, because they've, again, I guess it's kind of another spoiler warning, but they like prelude to it with the visions that Queen Muriel has, right? With the waves crashing over and everything. And within the lore as well, Pharazon is, if I'm not mistaken, he's in charge of Numenor. Like, he's the king of Numenor when Numenor falls. So, unless they just stop showing Numenor in, say, like, Season 3, when the survivors get to Middle-earth and then they establish the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor and all that kind of stuff. So, unless they just stop showing Numenor in Season 3, I imagine we have to see the fall of Numenor. And so that just makes me wonder, like, is Sauron or Halbrand's long-term goal here the destruction of Numenor, or in this moment is he actively seeking out a new life, a peaceful life?
Yeah. No,
one of Sauron's names is the Great Deceiver or the Deceiver. Like, that's what he's known to do, you know. So it just makes me wonder where his thoughts are, where his mentality is in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have the same curiosity there. That's what I started to write, and then I'm like, I can't really talk about that though.
Getting away from the spoiler bit right there, though, as well.
Yeah.
If you want to do another timestamp,
I will jot down the timestamp and we'll resume. Go ahead.
A big point I had that I found really interesting was Pharazon's approach, or his mentality, to Numenor sending troops to Middle-earth to help the Southlands. Because his son is standing there, like, telling him, like, you know, the people don't want this. You need to oppose the Queen Regent. You know, don't let our people go and die in Middle-earth, yada, yada, yada. And Pharazon makes the comment of, when the war is over, the elves will listen to us. Because, like, his son makes a comment of, like, you know, what, are we just listening to the elves? Or, like, something to that effect. We just, like, obeying their commands. And then Pharazon goes, again, when the war is over, the elves will listen to us. And just, like, hearing his motive behind assisting Galadriel and supporting Queen Muriel in that assistance is just really intriguing to me, because it's like, in the same episode, we see Galadriel fighting and training with the soldiers of Numenor, and she's whooping their butts, you know, like easily dodging their attacks and, like, you know, stopping just short of what would be a killing blow, you know, typical training stuff, obviously, like, not killing people in training, you know, but, like, you know, like, proving that, like, y'all can't take me type of thing. And I feel like the show is trying to portray Galadriel as this insanely outlandish, godlike swordswoman, you know, but unless I'm just 100% mistaken, she's not even in, like, the top tier of swords people in the elves. You know, like, at least by the time you get to Lord of the Rings, like the Fellowship of the Ring and stuff, like, Elrond is considered one of the best swordsmen in all of Middle-earth. Gil-galad, the High King, is an insanely powerful warrior. Even Arondir, you know, one of the wardens, the elf with the Southlanders, when you watch his fights, he's insanely skilled, you know. Like, and I would argue that even Arondir is more skilled than Galadriel is.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know.
I would make that argument.
Training,
And so,
a
but it's just
little,
like
yeah.
Numenor is this great kingdom of men. They have all of their histories, and as we know, those histories go back to the days with the elves and their alliance with the elves and all of that. And so it kind of baffles me that Pharazon has this mentality of the elves are going to listen to us when he has the history of the wars and that their people took part in alongside the elves. Like, he has to know that, like, bro, you guys are men. You're strong. You got a lot of people. You know, you got skilled soldiers for sure. But it's like, who probably trained you? The elves. Who are more skilled than you? The elves.
Yeah.
Who are more strategic than you? The elves, because they came up with all of that stuff for you.
Who surrender more often than you? The French.
I can't argue that. I can't argue it.
I don't know why I keep bringing that up. Because, okay, so here's the one. Because I wanted to accuse you of being racist, but I wanted to do it at a stage that's not as severe. And I feel like saying, like, Italy or French, like, it's not, like, it's just...
Listen, okay, saying the French are wusses is not racist, all right? Because they surrendered twice.
Yeah, and honestly,
in the last 100 years, they surrendered twice.
Is perfectly accurate.
But no, it's something that really, with Pharazon and his mentality towards assisting Galadriel, just because Pharazon is a well-educated man, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, like, he knows how to sway the crowds. You can see all the different, like, badges or whatever that he has, the craftsmanship, like, badges and stuff that he has on his little Boy Scout belt. Yeah, I mean, listen, micronation, man.
Indicate intelligence.
But no, he's an incredibly well-educated person, you know, who is obviously smart and obviously skilled. Like, I don't understand where he gets this idea of, especially now when the elves are at the height of their power, you know, getting the elves to bow down to Numenor. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, though, with him and his mentality.
So the only thing that I had written that was similar to that, I didn't realize, and maybe I misheard him, but I thought he pointed out that the Queen Regent is his cousin.
Yeah.
She is?
Yep.
I didn't notice that part, but he just said, now my cousin can go to war for the elves if she wishes, but I go to war for Numenor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay.
And it's right there in that same conversation that he makes that comment of the elves will listen to us. It's right there in that same conversation, because that's with his son.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, how he thinks that's even a possibility, kind of, it just intrigues me and makes me question his competency. Truthfully, like,
yeah.
Now, if you're talking like the elves of like Lord of the Rings era and Numenor where it is at the point in this show, I could see it, just because the elves, by the time you get to Lord of the Rings, are so diminished and so many of them have left to go back to Valinor. But like the elves now, at the height of their power, they still have, you know, they've still got their capital of Lindon full of elves. They've still got Eregion as a massive city with strong walls and a lot of soldiers. You know, they've got outposts across most of Middle Earth to see like attacks and stuff coming. I just don't see it. I don't understand his mentality of it, unless he's just like misinformed of like how powerful the elves are right now. That's like the only legitimate reason I could think of like, maybe he thinks the elves are weaker than they actually are at the current moment.
Yeah. I don't have anything about Numenor other than that. we went over what happened in it, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'm just perusing my notes real quick just
Yeah,
to make sure. One thing I did want to note with Numenor, this is at the end of the episode. Halbrand agrees to go to Middle Earth with Numenor and Galadriel, and he grabs that little pouch, right, that has the symbol of the King of the Southlands. And one thing I just wanted to kind of put in here as well.
Did he grab
is,
it, or did he throw it on the table and leave it?
Well, he initially threw it on the table and left it, and then it shows the pouch, and then it shows like a hand swipe it, which to me just screamed how
He went back for it.
Yeah. But one thing I did want to just point out and just kind of lay out is at the end of the episode, Numenor sets out, their expedition sets out to go to Middle Earth. They've already lost 2 ships because Pharazon's son tries to take them out and gets knocked out by that like little crane thing on the ship. And Isildur saves him from drowning and burning alive. So 3 ships set out instead of 5. So I would imagine 300 instead of 500 because there was originally going to be 500 Numenorian going. But notable people going to Middle Earth in this expedition is Isildur, who up until this moment where he saved Pharazon's son was rejected for the expedition, was not going to be going on it. And then, of course, you have Elendil as the captain of the expedition. You do have the Queen Regent Muriel, Galadriel, obviously, and then Halbrand, obviously. Those are like the big 5, going on the expedition. Now, of course, we do have a couple names for Isildur's friends that are going. But,
but ones that you might recognize.
Right, like the big people that it's like following their story is Isildur, Elendil, Muriel, Galadriel, and Halbrand. But that's just something I wanted to kind of point out. Obviously, some of those people, Isildur and Elendil, Galadriel, Halbrand. For those that have watched all the way through, we know who those are and what their fates ultimately are. Yep. But for Muriel, it's this is a character that's I don't know if she's mentioned in the lore of the world and everything like that, but it's one that most people don't know really who that is, what their fate ultimately is. So it's kind of one of those, and her father even makes a comment too of don't go to Middle Earth, you'll only find darkness there. Her father makes that comment in this episode.
Just drew a connection on a different meaning of that.
Oh, yeah? Care to share? Yeah. Some foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what he meant. I didn't even think about that.
Well, truthfully, when I watch this show, anytime it shows her father, whether she's talking to her father or her father's just there by himself or whatever, someone's there with her father.
Yeah.
Those are moments where I really try and pay attention because I feel like with her father, it's always some sort of foreshadowing going on with her father. Because as we know, the whole Palantir thing messed with his mind.
Yeah, so he's kind of maybe more in sync with it or something.
Right, yeah. So whenever her father shows up in a scene, I try to really hone in on what's going on and what's being said there.
That's pretty interesting about that specific line, and we'll bring it up later on.
Yeah.
Or try to remember too, but I didn't even think about that or draw that connection. Anyway, if you know what we're talking about, comment it. I don't know, interact with us.
I did have one thing I wanted to mention with Numenor and Galadriel.
Sure.
I put a note. Galadriel finally admits she's wrong about something. Because she admits to Halbrand that she was wrong in trying to use him to get the Numenor to help.
Yeah.
And it's the first little ripple in the pond for some sort of shift in her attitude.
Yeah.
And her mentality. She's been using people however she needs to get her goals done. She's been saying whatever she's wanted to, trying to strong arm people into doing what she wants. And this is the first instance where she finally
Admits
she
it.
finally like fesses up, like, this wasn't right of me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So,
moving on to Khazad-dûm.
yeah.
Well, actually, it's not Khazad-dûm, but
Right.
it has to do with Durin. Him and Elrond are.
It's like Prince Durin plus Lindon and Eregion. Or not even Eregion, but it's like Durin, Elrond, Gil-galad, and Celebrimbor. So it's like
they're
that
pretty much
kinda
all meeting
train
up.
of yeah.
Because if you remember in the last episode, Durin the Third was like, go figure out what they know, kind of, or what they're after, kind of thing. Because he thinks that they can possibly trust Elrond, but the person who sent him, they're not sure on. And so then they go to meet with them, and then now we're there.
And because with this as well, like this goes right into my first point. With the meeting of Prince Durin, they've got Elrond there, you've got Celebrimbor there, you've got Gil-galad there, and they're all sitting at that table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to like toast to a union between elves and dwarves, like an alliance between the two. Like this is before, so like a big event that causes a rift between the elves and dwarves is like the fall of Erebor in The Hobbit. You know, with like the elves turning their back on, Thorin and his people. And like this is obviously like thousands of years before that, and there's still like this animosity between the two races. And truthfully, I don't know where that comes from before that event in The Hobbit.
Right, yeah.
I'd have to look into it more
before that. So.
Right. I'm sure there's an event somewhere in like the history and the lore and stuff, but like I don't know what that event is other than the one at the start of The Hobbit where, King Thranduil turns his back on the dwarves of Erebor. And so it really makes me wonder, like, what happened between the elves and the dwarves up until this point to where like Gil-galad and Durin are like kind of going at each other here.
One of my notes is actually some of that bickering.
Yeah, it's just like, what event caused this? Because they get into it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, because Durin was like, they're basically just drinking, and they're kind of like just pretty, like, there's tension. And the king's just basically like, so your furnaces have been pretty active there. Why? What's going on there? And then Durin was like, well, I've also noticed that you've been moving awfully quickly. That's out of the ordinary. It typically takes you 2 weeks to decide to take a shit. And then, and then I think as Elrond's like, no, okay, now stop.
Well, and even past that, Durin does the whole bit with the table, right? Where he's like, this is a very hard mineral to find under the earth. So when our people find it, we use it for the most sacred of reasons.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. And like we find out later that it's like Durin's just playing Gil-galad because he wants a new table for his wife. Yeah. But it's like when Durin's doing that bit there at the end, when Gil-galad's like, well, we'll have to send it back with you. Forgive us for our like sacrilege behavior with this mineral.
Right.
And Durin, even in the moment, makes a comment of like, at least it's nice to know there's a shred of honor still left among the elves. And it's just
so
like,
there is that
is
like
such a harsh... Yeah, it's just like such a harsh thing to say, even if it's just part of a bit for you to get a new table. Like that is...
Yeah,
like,
there's definitely some existing
leader.
bitterness there and where that comes from.
Yeah. Like you say that to the wrong leader and there's war. Like if you look at our own histories, like of the real world, like you say that to the wrong king or emperor or whoever, like one person that's just a little too proud, you're probably getting your head cut off.
Yeah, or
because the implication there is like, up until I talked to you in this moment, I believe the elves have no honor.
yeah.
You know, like,
But
geez.
just another instance, because this is actually occurring again. There's a new event. When elves and dwarves have a disagreement, there is one way that they solve that, and you can actually see it coming up.
Tonight and tonight only, come on down to the Khazad-dûm Demolisher Arena to watch two meatbags compete in the ultimate test of endurance. In one corner, we have Prince Durin, and in the other, the apathetic elf himself, Elrond. You don't want to miss this. Come see who will smash the most rocks before wimping out.
Anyway,
That's a previous ad. Looks like they came back for more ad time.
yeah, Harfoot Happy Hikers was another one
Yeah.
that I'd done before, but it's just things are remembering. I'm remembering them, and I'm just like, I gotta show it.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, it's just the back and forth jibes between Gil-galad and Prince Durin is interesting to me, especially because you have two people that are at such high ranks within their own societies.
No, yeah.
You've got the High King of all of the elves and the Prince of the greatest Dwarven kingdom up until this point, at the very least. Like, arguably, Erebor is greater than Khazad-dûm was. You know, argue, like, I can see the argument being made. And so, like, I just kind of thought this. It's almost like a back and forth of, like, who's the higher rank here? You know, like, who's really in charge? Who's gonna pull rank here and get what they want? You know, type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just something with kind of this section of the story that really stuck out to me.
Yeah. And yeah, that's something we already talked about before. So I guess I don't have any more notes for the dwarves and elves.
One thing I did want to bring up with this is Elrond goes to Gil-galad, right? Or has like a meeting with Gil-galad, and Gil-galad is basically saying, like, we need whatever you found there to, you know, restore the elves and make sure we keep our immortality. Otherwise, we're gonna have to leave back to Valinor and leave Middle Earth. And Gil-galad asks Elrond if he knows the story. I didn't write down the name of the story, which I should have. But it's basically the story of, like, how mithril was created.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows, as Elrond talks about it, a fight between a noble elf and a Balrog of Morgoth. And part of me wonders, and I have to assume it's yes, but part of me wonders, is that Balrog that it shows in that fight, is that Durin's Bane? The Balrog we see in Fellowship of the Ring. I do wonder if that is one and the same.
Well, and there is another one shown at the... I haven't gotten there yet. Never mind.
Well,
we see it again. We see another one.
Well, and my question would be, is that the same one there as well?
Yeah.
You know, because
No,
argued, yeah. But that does make me wonder if that is, like, the one and the same Balrog that we see in Fellowship of the Ring. Like, it looks the same, but I don't know if there's a lot of variation in appearance from Balrog to Balrog.
Yeah, maybe they're... yeah.
Because, like, when you look at the lore of Lord of the Rings, you have the ancient kingdom of Gondolin during the War of Wrath and before the War of Wrath, that whole thing they talk about in the first episode of the show with Morgoth and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that kingdom falls when, I believe, an ancient dragon called Ancalagon the Black shows up with Balrog attached to its wings, and they just like drop off of this dragon and invade that kingdom. And it's like dozens of Balrogs show up in that battle. And I don't know if it's just like they all look the same, or if they got like varying horns, or different weaponry. I don't know if there's a lot of variation from one to the other.
Question: is Gondolin? Is there a city in Dark Souls that sounds very similar to that?
Lordran.
This is obviously random, but it just made me.
You have Lordran in Dark Souls.
Maybe.
And then you have like New Londo and On Orlando.
Huh.
No. Oh gosh.
Well, it sounds like something straight out of there, and I thought maybe there was something similar that was jogging my memory.
Right. But Gondolin, there's a whole book on like the fall of Gondolin that's out for anybody that's interested in that bit of Lord of the Rings stuff. But yeah, my whole point of bringing that up was just like, I don't know if Balrogs have different appearances like from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So like this one that it shows in this episode, I would really be curious to know if that is the same one that we see in Moria and Fellowship.
Yeah.
Because Balrogs are effectively like fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you correlate it over to the Bible, like Morgoth is Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
Sauron and the Balrogs are the angels that fell with him when they tried to overthrow God.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like within Christianity, at least, like, are the angels, do they all look the same within the same like tier level? Like if you have the like what are they called, like the cherubs or whatever, like do all of them look exactly the same, or do they vary as well? That type of thing. Kind of correlate that over to Balrogs. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that was just something I did want to bring up.
That comparison there is something that I always want to dive deeper into, because Lord of the Rings and that whole thing was written inspired by in two intentionally parallel Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in Gandalf,
right,
sacrifices himself, or falls, comes back, white as snow. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of things that we could probably
like another
dive
correlation is to like the Bible and stuff, is like Lord of the Rings has an ancient like prophecy called, I think it's like Dagor-Dagorlad, which is essentially Revelations for Christianity, where it's like there'll be a war over the living, and the dead will come back to fight in that war for good or for bad, that sort of thing. So like there is that correlation over to like Christianity as well. But then like, because like Tolkien was inspired by obviously Christianity or Catholicism specifically, but as well with like what's his name, C.S. Lewis, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, like both of them were inspired by each other and by Catholicism, because they were both devout Catholics. And so like you can see the similarities to Christianity, but you can also see the similarities to Chronicles of Narnia as well.
Yeah.
With the two of them.
Definitely thinking about the lion and that whole thing.
So
that could be kind of a fun deep dive sometime. Talk about the inspirations and the correlations between those three things.
Yeah.
But I think at that point could be a fun one to do after, if we ever do Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, are they doing a book? Or not a book? Obviously they do books. Are they doing a show? I thought I heard something about a show. Yeah, I thought I heard something about a show coming out, because they did the movies a while back, and those kind of crap.
I haven't heard anything about a show. Because they only did like movies 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
for Chronicles of Narnia, but
I don't think those performed very well, and they just kind of.
I thought the first one was really good. The second one was decent as well.
I really liked them.
The third one I didn't care for too much personally.
been a while since I've
Right.
seen it, so
Yeah.
maybe they were not great. I do feel like my judgment on what makes a good story has drastically changed. I mean, heck, over the last year, but back then,
Yeah.
I hope. Either way, I thought I heard something about that. So if they do, let's cover it, and then
Yeah.
let's do that kind of a deep dive thing. But either way, back to Rings of Power,
Yeah.
episode 5.
I think the last thing I had for the elves and the dwarves and stuff was Elrond finds out that Celebrimbor knew about like Gil-galad's ulterior motives for sending Elrond to the dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy the dialogue that we get between Elrond and Celebrimbor whenever it comes up. Because like when they talk, like we do know that like Celebrimbor was really good friends with Elrond's father, and so you to me it always comes across of like a mentor-mentee relationship between Celebrimbor and Elrond. And sometimes that flips between the two of them. Sometimes Elrond's the mentor, sometimes he's the mentee. But I do enjoy their conversations they have, the relationship there between the two of them. And because like even when Elrond finds out that Celebrimbor knew, he doesn't like freak out and get super ticked off about it. You know, like he sits there and he listens, and like Celebrimbor tries to give him some advice about like. I think Celebrimbor even tries to convince him to like go against his oath to Prince Durin and like share the mithril. Like Celebrimbor's tested it; it's the purest metal, so on and so forth. But it's like when Gil-galad says it, Elrond's very defensive and like, whoa, back up a second, hold on a second. But when Celebrimbor says it, it's like, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, like he carries it with a little, or considers it more.
Yeah.
Kind of considered, or keeps it with a little more weight, takes it with a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anywho, yeah. So the last group that we've got is the Southland people. They're at that one tower. I forget the name of it, but
I think it's Ostereth.
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
First thing I have written, and actually, nope, the only thing I have written, is that Theo finally comes to his senses and shows Arondir the weapon / power / ends up being a key. I was just like, dude, Theo had been irritating me.
He continues to irritate me.
You know what? Let's load this episode full of money too, because actually,
oh man,
we have a little bit more of another word from our sponsor, from actually I think last episode. So just to promote them a little bit more, and you know.
When life has you feeling like you can't add any more to your plate, let Theo do exactly that. This episode of You're in Depth is brought to you by Theo Dash. Let him cover your food needs as he just blindly runs into stupid decisions.
good old Theo Dash.
Yep. Anyway, he's finally made a good decision.
Yeah,
That's my point.
Yeah, Theo showing Arondir the weapon. Arondir does make the comment that it is a key in this episode, so we do like kind of get that confirmation of not just a weapon but a key. Doesn't know what it's for yet. You know, like doesn't know what it's a key to, but and we will figure out what it's for.
Yeah.
in future
Theo's just like,
episodes,
what's
but-
it a key for? And Arondir's just like, my heart, give it to your mother.
No, Theo's like, what's it a key for? Arondir goes, your mama's chastity belt.
Oh, no. Anyway, no, that's the only note I had. So if you have some, let's talk about them.
I kind of grouped the Orcs and the Southlanders here in one. right? Because like they're directly influencing each other right now, especially. We do get the comment that the orcs have completed their tunnel that they've been working on for the past couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see one of the orcs, his arm like getting burned as Adar is like shining it in pure sunlight, and he's kind of talking about like I wish you could feel the sun as I do, and I remember its warmth, and kind of in a emo-esque type of
Yeah. As he's essentially just holding a cigarette butt up to the orc's arm. He's just like talking about it, and the dude's just sizzling.
He's like taped like 7 or 8 cigars together, lit them all, and just stuck it on his arm.
Just
yeah. We do have a large amount of the Southlanders. They leave the tower in this episode to go swear themselves to Adar, as you mentioned in the kind of the episode recap.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're the French.
Yeah, yeah. But there's the one Southlander, I'm trying to blank on his name now, but he's like the older guy that Theo took that key sword thing from his, like he tries to get Theo to leave with his group that are going to Adar, because like, the previous episode, they both like, he found out Theo had the same mark on his arm from using the blade and all that kind of stuff. And I can't remember if it happens in this episode or in the next episode, so I guess like slight spoiler warning if anybody hasn't seen the next episode, just as a heads up. But when they get to Adar, do they get to Adar and start swearing fealty to him in this episode? Do you remember? Do we actually like see them get there?
Yeah, they arrive because Adar's like, kill the boy.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking of, and I just couldn't remember if it was in this episode or not. They get there, and like this dude's like, "Oh, we're gonna serve him. He's Sauron, and we're gonna serve him, and it's gonna be great. Make the Southlands great again." We're gonna build a wall. It's going to be huge. No elves allowed.
So stupid.
But no, it's just like these people, the Southlanders, some of them leave the tower, and it's like I kind of got this impression that they have this thought of like they're gonna start this whole new life, and it's gonna be great, and there's gonna be zero problems whatsoever. And then they get there, and Adar's like, "Kill the boy."
Yeah, it's instantly
here's
like,
a knife. Kill the boy.
It's just like, you guys are dumb.
Yeah, it's just like the dude is leading a host of orcs. Y'all know what orcs are. This is not like a foreign concept of what an orc is to you. Like, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it doesn't go well. And,
yeah. Let's see. The remaining Southlanders that stay at the tower prepare for the assault against the orcs that are coming to attack. We don't really see what those preparations are yet in this episode. We don't really know what the plan is, but like they talk about like coming up with a plan and defending themselves.
I have a plan, Arthur. Yeah, I don't know if you played much of that, but I've been playing. I'm on my 3rd playthrough of Red Dead 2. Just need more money. Anyway.
Yeah. Something I wrote down as a note with that sword that Theo has, the sword key thing.
The sword key power thing.
Yeah. I was going to try and make a reference to Kingdom Hearts, but I'd never played those games, so I don't even know what that sword, key, blade thing
I know
is.
exactly what you're talking about, and I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I never played those games, so I attempted to. I was going to attempt to make a reference, but then I realized I don't know anything about the games to make a reference to.
Well,
other
we're
than
gonna
Mickey Mouse is in it.
Yeah, we're gonna refrain from looking that up. So if anybody's listening, comment, or just, you know what, if you're on Spotify, you can comment on episodes, and if you're on Apple, just make that your review. Just be like, it's called this.
Watch
5
it be
stars.
something as simple as like the sword key, or
It's
something
just
like
it's the
that.
power key sword. Just like, dang, we're so close.
Oh, we're almost at it. We're almost there. But no, my comment though, or my note was, they're at the Watchtower. There is a kind of like a statue of that sword carved out of stone
Oh yeah,
that was covered by a bunch of like weeds and bramble and whatnot. That
Right.
because like Arondi was like, "This looks familiar. I've seen this before. I'm Batman." And he pulls away the.
yeah.
No, but I thought it was kind of interesting. There's like a stone statue of that sword there at the Watchtower, which to me just like implies that Watchtower used to belong to like the Orcs and the evil side during the big old war.
Yeah, for sure. Because then also think about the fact that this isn't anything that necessarily makes it more interesting, but I'm just thinking about it. It's like the sword that is used as the key wasn't a complete key until the person had to, because it rebuilt itself as they stabbed themselves. So it's like it's not useful until you freaking,
Yeah, like
that's kind of interesting.
You either have to be on the side of evil or an idiot like Theo to get the sword key to work.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Like a good person or a person that doesn't want to get hurt is not going to accidentally use the sword.
Yeah. But anyway, that was just something I thought about. I'm like, actually, it would have to be used in order to, be used.
Right. Another interesting thing, because this is something I had looked up at the start of this recording as we were doing it, is I was curious at the location of Ostereth, the Watchtower where all the Southlanders are.
Yep, I'm aware of what that
no, I was
was
for
called.
For the listeners.
Oh, there aren't any.
Oh, perfect.
Just us.
But I was curious on its location. And so I was looking it up and trying to find something official. And I didn't really find anything official saying this is where it's at. But I did come across a Reddit post that had some maps attached to it of Middle-earth. And at least according to this Reddit post, it has Ostereth located where Cirith Ungol is in Return of the King. That's right. That's where Frodo gets stabbed by Shelob, and the orcs show up and take him to that fortress. It had this watchtower of Ostereth there where Cirith Ungol is, which is right there by Shelob's lair in Return of the King. And so like there's a couple people like commenting of like, I think Ostereth is Cirith Ungol when Arondir blah, 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 is talking with his boss in the tower. We see a mountain in the distance that may be Orodruin, which I think is the mountain range that Shelob's lair is located in. They kind of like walls off Mordor. But then there's other people saying like, no, it's not. Halbrand shows where Ostereth is on a map. But it's kind of a back and forth of whether it is, whether it's not, whether it's close to where that ends up being in Mordor. So I'm not 100% sure, but the only thing that I kind of see everybody agreeing on is the Watchtower is at the very least in that same mountain range that we see Cirith Ungol in Return of the King, and where we see Shelob's lair in Return of the King.
Okay.
So, but that was just, it was something I was curious about, mainly because I had spotted the swamp with the Harfoots and
Oh yeah.
that correlation to the scene in Two Towers. So I was, it just kind of like piqued my interest and had me wondering. But I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got
But-
anything else?
One last check of my notes. Sword Key of Theo, we did that. Ronder's preparing to attack the Watchtower. I think that's everything I've got on the Southlander and the Orcs. They weren't really in this episode too much. It was just kind of like a prep stage for
Pretty much.
the next
Yeah.
episode or two. So
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, truthfully, as we watched this episode, I think this one was primarily Numenor.
Yeah.
And as I think about it, because like the Harfoots is just some traveling,
Yeah.
the Southlanders and the Orcs is just kind of some prep for a future fight,
Mhm.
and like the Elves and the Dwarves is just kind of like we're talking, and Prince Durin gets a new table. you know,
Yeah. Pretty
but
much.
like stuff's actually happening in Numenor at this moment of like preparations are kind of getting finalized and the expedition's setting out, but some people like it, some people don't. So a lot of my notes are just Numenor and everything going on there.
Yeah. But I guess that does conclude our notes and our discussion on this episode. To direct you once more to the Spotify comments, let us know what you thought of the episode that we covered, or heck, the episode of us covering the episode. I don't know. Input is always appreciated. Yeah. Also, leave us a review while you're there, a rating on Spotify.
Something
Same
I
with
would
Apple.
like
but
to do as well at the end of these, kind of like as I asked you at the end of the last
oh yeah,
episode that we not Lord of the Rings episode, but the Star Wars one we just recorded. High point and low point of the episode. Was there any one point that stuck out that you're like, I really liked that, or was there a point that stuck out where you're like, that sucked?
I've got specific moments that one of them. So no, the something stands out for a high point, and then the point that something kind of bothered me, which I guess is what you just asked. The high point was Durin and the table.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really
Yeah.
funny, and I loved it. The low point for me, honestly, was Galadriel's fight scene with the training. It just bugged me, because her attitude in this just being so smug.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, she's talented. I mean, you clarified that, like, probably not the most talented, but still,
Right.
in comparison to these guys, just something about it was just kind of like, this is kind of dumb. I don't know.
Just kind of just
But,
like showing off just to show off. Almost.
Exactly. Yeah. She's just kind of showing off. It's just kind of corny, some of the movements, and I don't know. This is kind of a lower point, but it wasn't like a super low point. Like, it's just meh. Anyway,
Yeah.
what about you?
I'm gonna start with my low point because it's kind of like a coverall low point for me.
Okay.
Is any scene that involves Pharazon's son just bothers me.
Yeah.
And any, like, thinking not just in this episode, but every episode of Rings of Power, whenever his son is on screen, it bothers me. Like, his son just gives me creep vibes.
Hmm.
Like, especially how he, like, hangs around, like, Isildur's sister so much in the earlier
Yeah.
episodes. Like, they're kind of, in this episode, you kind of see them, like, more friendly with each other, and they kind of, like, hold hands for a moment or something like that. But it's like, anytime he's on screen, I'm just like, oh, gosh, please, no.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, just...
I don't love the character, but I haven't been that bothered by him.
He for whatever reason, he just bothers me so much.
Okay.
For a high for this episode, I think I have to agree with you with the Durin in the table. It's just such a comical scene.
Yeah. And actually, I got to show you something. So, real quick.
I will say just on the,
yeah.
the high and low real quick. The other one that kind of stands out to me that potentially contests Durin in the table is when Elrond is explaining to Durin that like we need the mithril to save the elves, to save our immortality, or we have to leave Middle Earth. The elven people's fate is in your hands, and Durin's like, say that again. The elves are in your hands. In whose hands? It's like, you little bugger, you.
Yeah. No, so speaking of the table again, so this is my notes. Let's see if it actually, there we go. So you can see them and stuff right here. You see it crossed out. Because I believed him, and I was like, where did the elves get this table? And I just wrote that question. And then like later on, he's just like, no, I made it up. And I'm like, okay. And I crossed it out.
Yeah. Prince Durin's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, definitely.
I always enjoy the scenes with him in it. It's either funny, like it's either funny scenes, or there's like a lot of weight to the conversation or the actions being taken. I really enjoy his character.
I definitely think that, yeah, between the humor of how his character is just funny, but then also a lot of the emotion behind his character.
Yeah.
Like if we even think of the first time we met him, where he's like very cold to Elrond, and then it's just like, it might seem like a blink of an eye to you, but it's an entire lifetime to me. You know, that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of depth there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you feel that, and I do like his character a lot.
Well,
I like that whole storyline so far.
I really like his character as well because he shows you the stubbornness of dwarves and their like hardiness, but he also in some ways contradicts that stubbornness, where like he does forgive and he does change his mind. And it kind of, to me, he almost parallels Gimli in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where it's like, at first, like, Gimli is not about Legolas or the elves at all, can't stand them, but by the end of it, like, they're best friends, And you like, I just see a lot of parallel between those two characters, and Gimli is one of my favorite in the Lord of the Rings movies, too,
Sorry, just what popped into my head is, throw me.
I cannot make the distance. You have to toss me.
Yeah.
Don't tell the elf. This was something I wanted to say, and I totally forgot about it until now when we were talking about Durin.
Oh, what's that? Something
I noticed about the dwarves in Rings of Power, but we don't see it in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. If you look at Durin when he's, especially in this episode, and then when you look at his wife and other episodes, Durin's feet look like they have are partially made out of gold, or like have like a cover of like golden dust or something on them. And then like his hands, if you look really closely, you can kind of see it on his hands, like towards the ends of his fingers. And then with his wife, you can see it a little bit like on her face, some towards the sides.
Now I noticed her, but I just figured that was like an accent of some kind to.
No, I noticed
different.
it with
I don't know.
I noticed it with Prince Durin as well.
But okay.
I haven't noticed it with like King Durin or any of the other dwarves that we kind of see in the background, or like side characters like that chief minor dwarf.
And with him, they very well could be some sort of adornment or like some sort of like thing to signify like royalty in their thing or whatever, But that's interesting.
Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting because it was like, I would expect to maybe see some like flecks of metal or mineral or material on, say, like a miner or a worker, cast dwarf. But like in that cast of dwarf, in like one of those casts of dwarves, they're like in the mines, mining the material, the minerals, all that kind of stuff. I maybe expect to see something like that on them, but like Prince Durin's a prince. He ain't in the mines, swinging a pickaxe. So like why does he?
Is he though?
I don't.
With the
don't
mithril,
think
I thought he
so.
was.
Maybe with the mithril, but like these accents are. I don't know if it's meant to be like part of their flesh or what.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
even
my
if he
instant
is
thought
in
with
there,
him is just because he's king
right?
or prince.
But even if he is in there, like helping mine the mithril, I would expect it to be more silvery. But it's like distinctly gold, like golden rather.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm right.
well, because like mentioning like the royalty aspect of it, I guess I'll have to go back and look. But I never noticed it on King Durin, only on Prince Durin and his wife. I'd have to go back and look though, because I never was really looking for it before.
Yes, just scope out them piggies. See if he's got. This is stupid.
Sorry, I know we were at the like wrapping up stage of the episode.
Yeah, no,
but,
I mean
like...
it's further discussion that we. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was just something I noticed rewatching the episode this time around. Like I'd noticed it before with his wife, but this was the first time I noticed it with him.
Gotcha.
I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it, and
yeah. Huh. Again, you really have to look for it, and I don't know.
Yeah,
because
I
was watching a YouTube video while taking my notes. And I just kind of like had my ear open to like important things being said or like glancing up at the screen at like points where I knew something important was happening.
You know what happened? Here's what happened, right? The YouTube video you were watching was like Feet Model Expo 2025 or something. And you're just watching, and then you look up and you see Rings of Power, and you're like, "Oh, feet! Oh, they're gold! What the heck? I got to write that down."
Well, see, I'd agree with you there if the video was not a D&D campaign that I was watching on YouTube.
Yeah. More like F and F. It's feet and frolicking.
Feet and fingers.
Sure.
Anyways, thank you guys for joining us for this episode where we covered episode 5 of Rings of Power.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us if you're still here. That takes a lot.
Like Jacob said, check out those other the different ways to listen to the podcast, do those reviews, those comments, so on and so forth.
I don't know if I said it in this one.
Oh, you did. I just cut in with Durin and all that stuff right after.
Well, I was saying, I think I mentioned, whatever. Okay, we'll just do a quick rundown here. Okay. 500 Spotify followers, I release a full song of the Numenor Navigator's rendition of Pedo Man. And actually not, it's their original. Well, it doesn't matter. So so get us to that. We only got 80 to go. So,
it's only 80 more? Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So share around. Apple Podcast.
You need to put that full...
reviews.
Sorry, you need to put that full sea shanty on Apple, like iTunes, and charge like 99 cents for it.
If it gets popular enough, maybe.
Or even like 50 cents or 25, whatever. But
yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, just Apple reviews. We'll do a live stream once we hit 25 of those, and then other than that, every 1,000 downloads, we will do a blooper reel. That's our kind of milestone goal thingies that we just want to remind you of.
And at the time of this recording, that Apple reviews are at 11. So at the time of this recording, 14 more.
Yeah.
Might be different when the episode airs, but that's where we're at.
Either way, yeah. So, I don't know. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm tired. Bye.
Toodles.
Deuces.